Have you ever wondered what a real Enneagram coaching session is like, especially with a type 3? Well, if you are, then stick around because that's exactly what you're going to experience today. Hey guys, I'm Beth McCord, your Enneagram coach, and this is your Enneagram Coach, the podcast. And today you're going to experience a real coaching session with a type 3. Now, at your Enneagram Coach, we are here to help you experience real life transformation with the tool of the Enneagram from a Christian perspective. And we do this through engaging podcasts or insightful books, dynamic courses, and so much more that can all be found at yourenneagramcoach.com. Now, the other thing is that we train certified Enneagram coaches. Yeah, we have coaches that are trained just to take you or your marriage or your family or your work through the Enneagram to help you to have lasting growth. If you're looking for a coach, then go to myenneagramcoach.com. But for those of you that love the Enneagram and you can't help but talk about it and try to help others, then take our free mini course to see what becoming an Enneagram coach is all about. This free mini course can be found at yourenneagramcoach.com/mini course. Well, in today's episode, you're going to get a sneak peek into a real coaching session with a type 3. Now, whether you're listening or you're watching it on YouTube, you get to experience being right here with us. Now, I know a lot of you have been learning about the Enneagram through the books, the blogs, the podcast, all the things, but you may not have experienced a coaching session. And so that's what we get to do today. Now, let me tell you more about our guest. Now, our guest has given me full permission to release this as a podcast, so don't worry. But this session is with Felicia Caldier. Now, Felicia is a ministry leader helping Christians live authentically in their identity in Christ. She is married to her high school sweetheart, Travis, who is a lead pastor, and they have four young kids, and I'm sure that's keeping them quite busy and on their toes every single day. Now, when she's not working at the church, she's running as an active director for, yep, her family. It takes quite a bit of effort to run a family of four. But not only that, she's also one of our certified Enneagram coaches who's passionate to see others grow in their relationship with Christ and who he created them to be and to not do it alone. So she's using the Enneagram to help others to discover their unique identity as a reflection of God. She is so excited, though, to get coached herself today. And this is what's really intriguing. Now, some of you might be going, well, Beth, she knows about the Enneagram. Like, why don't you have someone on there that doesn't know anything? Though we will do that, I wanted to showcase what Enneagram coaching is like with actual coaches. Why? Because they have aha moments too. The Enneagram is for all of us. We all get stuck. We all have moments that we get confused, and we need someone to guide us in the direction that's best for us. So, we're going to talk to Felicia about the areas she feels stuck in and how the Enneagram can give her the insights and the clarity that she's been looking for, but maybe hasn't noticed. And so, today is going to be her day. So, join me now as I dive into a coaching session with Felicia, a type 3. Hey, Felicia, it's so good to have you. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much, Beth. It's been a good day.
Yay, awesome. Well, now we get to go through guide sheet number 1 for the type 3. And I talked to you previously and you said you would love to read, you process things better. So, right here out of the gates, we'll see at the top of the first guide sheet is 5 words, kind of ranging from healthy to less healthy. So, if you can read those, then when you're done reading, let me know which one or ones really popped up and why. Like, did they hit a chord? Did they ring true? Do you have any stories around them that you would like to share, or a place that you're stuck in that, like, they're like really pointing to? So I'll let you go ahead and read.
Sure. The successful achiever is efficient, accomplished, motivating, driven, and image conscious. Right off the bat, efficient just stands out as something that I like, almost crave because
Mm.
I go through life thinking about ways that I can make something more efficient, and whether that's in myself or in others, in processes and procedures, anything that I involve myself in, I think, like, "Could this be done more efficiently?" And a funny story is my husband asks me all the time, he questions some of the facial features I give, and he goes, "Are you thinking about a way that I could do this more efficiently?" And I am. I have to, so I've had to learn over time, like, not everybody wants to do it the way I want to. So that rings true. It'd probably be on my tombstone.
Yeah, that's
Efficient
so funny.
efficient or productive, both of those things are really important.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
the rest of them, yeah, definitely have been a part of what drives me, motivates me, accomplish motivating, that's pretty self-explanatory. Driven, I think, everybody that I know would say that I'm a very driven person. And image conscious, this one took me a long time to try to, like, wrap my head around because
Mm,
I actually don't like to be up front and center, but
mhm.
I value the things that are around me. Like, I want them to be good as well. So not only is it just how I look and present myself, but it's also like the people around me. Are they also presenting themselves in a way that's going to reflect back on myself, which is part of the
Mm.
image consciousness. So that's all
Yeah.
fascinating that all of those are like, are ticks throughout my life.
Yeah. Okay, so you're mom of 4,
Yeah.
so you're super busy, but I've also heard that at times for moms that are type 3s, and this is, I think, true for all the 9 types, but I think particularly for the type 3 is the, reflection that their kids might be putting on the
Mm.
type 3 mom, whether good or bad. Is that something kind of the image conscious, does that kinda transfer from the kids up to you as well?
I think it depends on the situation. I think as they get older, it might. Right now, they're so little that
Mhm.
honestly, I I help, create whatever environment they're in or I put them in. I am really curious of how that's gonna work as they get older and have more autonomy with themselves and kind of become themselves.
Right.
I'd say it'd be more with my husband, like,
Oh,
"Hey, we're doing things differently. Are you sure that's right? Like, are you sure that's, what you want to do?" Because I start thinking about how it could, impact or reflect back on me. So, we'll see.
yeah. I'm curious, what type is he?
He's a type 1.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep, 1
interesting.
and a 3.
So, power couple, right? You guys are getting
Yes,
things done.
that's right.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're gonna kinda hold on to all of that, but I love how you brought up, efficient, especially,
Mm,
obviously driven and, motivated and accomplishing, so those are all definites, and then the image conscious was something more like, "Huh, I had to really take some time to really kinda find that within myself."
yeah,
Also just a quick question, do you know your instinctual subtype?
I do. I'm a self-preservation,
Okay. That's
and
what I was kinda guessing. I was like,
yeah.
yeah.
Which
So
helped me actually learn more about myself because I felt so, like, confused by some of the archetype of a type 3 being,
right,
that put the showy and upfront, but no, I have, like, this
right,
almost desire to be good and almost, like, subdued in that accomplishment, but I still wanna achieve the things.
right, yeah. And that's why I love the instinctual subtypes just
Yes.
because for those that are like you that are kinda counter type to the typical archetype,
Mhm.
it really is helpful because it's like, "Oh, I still am. Oh, I am a 3. I just have a little slight different version of a
Right.
3." So, yeah, the self-pres 3 is really, they have vanity that they don't have vanity.
Yes,
It's
we
so
don't
they're
want
kinda
anybody to know.
counter. Right, yeah. I'm going counter to, like, having this image, but then, like you said, it does kinda creep in,
It
but it
does.
might be just very different. It might be, I wanna make sure we look good, as in, like, we're doing the good
We're
thing and
doing the good thing, the right thing in the moment, which is where
right.
my type 1 husband really drives that because he's always looking for
Yeah,
what's the good and right thing to do.
yeah, yeah. But I can see, like we were saying, being efficient, and I'm a
Mhm.
9, so I go to 3 a lot, and I think of efficiencies too. I think mine, though, I think of efficiencies, 'cause it's kinda fun, but I'll be honest, it's like, well, if I'm efficient, then we don't have to do it as long. Because
That's
we
true.
feel and relax. Okay,
I'm for that.
yeah. So, but yeah, for your husband, he might not always want the efficiencies because that might sometimes be cutting corners. Is that
Oh, yes, and he
too true?
yeah, he'll definitely say that. He say, "You can get things done, but it's not always right. It's not the right thing to do, or it's not how I would do it." Like, there's reason behind doing the thing more fully than the way I'd say, if we're talking something big, like being something that it's in the church versus doing the dishes. I'm happy to cut corners on dishes, and
Yeah.
he is not.
Right, that's so good. I love that. Okay, so in the next part of the guide sheet, we're going to really cover the core motivations. And every type has their core motivations, and this is the place where people really can find their main type
Mm,
because this is the driving force behind why we think, feel, and behave. And so there are four core motivations, and there's the core fear, the thing that you're always trying to avoid or prevent from happening. The core desire, the thing that you're like, man, if I just had this one thing, life would be full and rich and like satisfying. Then we have a core weakness, and this is your Achilles heel, the thorn in your side, the thing that keeps tripping you up time and time again. And then the core longing. This is the message your heart longs to hear and experience. Now, why don't you go ahead and because you had said that you do better when you read, so go ahead and read those four core motivations, and then if there's a particular situation or circumstance in your life right now where you're either feeling stuck or you need some help or guidance or you just kind of need to paint a different picture, see if you can't weave these core motivations into that scenario. And let's kind of see what happens with it.
okay. Core fear is being exposed as or thought incompetent, inefficient, or worthless, failing to be or appear successful. Core desire, having high status and respect, being admired, successful, and valuable. Core weakness, deceit, deceiving yourself into believing you are only the image you present to others, embellishing the truth by putting on a polished persona for everyone, including yourself, to see and admire. And core longing, you are loved and valued for simply being you. Right now, I'm going through a really interesting life transition where I am moving from working in the secular world to working in ministry. And
Mm-hmm.
throughout my entire career, I have been in secular work, and where I worked was very much separation of like church and not, and you didn't really talk about religion, and it just wasn't open, and that was fine. I was happy to keep those things separate, and I got good at doing that. I was efficient at keeping things
Yeah.
separate. But now I am pursuing, ministry and a call to ministry, and this came at a really surprising time in my life where I thought I knew the path forward. I thought I knew what my end game was in like, my plan. I had a life plan, that's what I do.
Right.
I love to check those boxes, and it collapsed, of course it did, and, but in the moment, it's devastating, and now I thought, I see now what God was doing. I see where he was moving me, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be pursuing ministry, but I'm nervous that I may find myself just trying to, using that fear of like, I don't want to be seen as incompetent, but I actually don't know as much as, others who have been doing ministry for years. That
Mhm.
fear comes in, and I want to be successful. I want to do a good job, especially in the job that I was hired for, which is serving my church. So that fear just kind of creeps in. Is like, well, are you actually going to do a good job? Are you pretending to be good at this? Is this really true and like a good, like a true calling of yours? Um, and then I think about authenticity. I really don't want to deceive, right? Using my core weakness, anybody, especially myself. That's the easiest for me to deceive is myself. And I don't want that. I want to be as authentic as I can be moving into this, and
Mhm.
really find like what it is God has for me in this next phase, because I have no window. I have no steps. I have no ladder. I have nothing that I had in that secular environment that was easy for me to calculate what I need to do to be successful. It's gone. And so,
Wow.
all of that feeds right into where I'm at today, and, that's all I want. I wanna do it well, but I wanna do it true.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I can totally see how this is a real kind of conundrum for you as a 3. I mean, now anyone else kinda looking in, like, let's say they didn't even know anything about this, they're just kinda like, you moved from one career to the next, they probably are thinking you're killing it, and, like, you're probably, confident and you'll figure it out, and you will. I mean, that's just, like, what 3s do, but I think most people wouldn't know to the level of fear, and I think a lot of 3s themselves that haven't done their own work wouldn't know to the level of fear that they have. I
Mm,
think the fear usually in comes out sideways in planning more, having more lists, having more goals. Now, that can also be when you're healthy too. It just kind of depends on which way and why you're doing it, right? But I bet a lot of people outside of you wouldn't really know to the level of like anxiety or fear that you're experiencing. And honestly, it's really refreshing for you to be able to say, I I have this fear. Like I went from being very successful and knew exactly what the measurements were and how to know if I was doing it right and good and successful. And now I'm over here and I don't know as much as
yeah.
others. And am I going to look incompetent? Is this going to tarnish, my image? Am I going to look unsuccessful and people not admire me? Those are some legitimate fears and rightfully so. I mean, you're in a new sphere. So how has it been for you or well, and I guess how long have you been into this new career? Or maybe you haven't even started yet, but how long have you been into it, and what's it been like navigating that so far?
Yeah, I just started in January, so it's been a month and a half, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's totally new. I have enjoyed it because I'm doing something that I know I'm good at, which is why
Mm.
they essentially hired me for the job, but,
Yeah.
I'm also pursuing that, like, ministerial part of it, which is just beyond me. It's something that is so new, and I agree with you. Most people we have a church board meeting, everybody says, "You're doing so great," like, "Wow, 1 month, like, look at what you've done," and that's all of course, I wanna hear that, but
Sure.
really the piece is, like, I wanna serve well for God, not just for my own gain, right?
Mhm.
And to get those accolades, I don't want it to just be for that. So yes, I agree. Like I know I can do a good job in the things that I'm confident in. It's those other parts that I'm just trying to figure out like how do I do that and not do it just for myself?
Yeah. Okay, so that's gonna be great. So let's kind of hang our hat for a little bit on this that you're stepping away from what you were confident and assured in and competent in into this new space where you have a lot of uncertainties. There's a lot to learn, a huge learning curve, which, the uncertainty of what others are going to see and experience as you're learning is problematic for your heart at least. It's
Sure.
probably not problematic for anyone else, but for your heart at least.
Yeah.
And then where that could lead again is the slippery slope of deceit. And
Mhm.
like you said, man, my heart, I really want to be authentic and real and true. I don't want to put on achieving masks. And yet, like for all of us, it can kind of creep in and slip in pretty, quickly and without us noticing at times. But I'm really excited because I think you've gotten over time a grasp of what that can look like. But I think as we go through this guide sheet, I think it would be really cool to kind of see where you have unpacked and unlocked some of this new revelation, this new awareness. And then let's also see if maybe, there's something new that like you haven't fully explored and have a
Mhm.
new, fresh aha moment that could maybe be the next key to unlock the next step in this journey. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next part of the guide sheet is really this overview of a type 3, and it's going to show some high points, some not so great points, but then also end on a beautiful kind of gospel note. So if you don't mind reading that, and then once you're done, just kind of again, let's kind of whether you could use the same situation that you're in and kind of incorporate it all there, or if something else pops in your mind, feel free to bring that into the conversation as well.
Okay. You have a deep fear of being worthless, a failure, or incapable, which causes you to struggle with deceit. You hide parts of yourself that you don't want others to see and only portray a successful exterior. I'm in doing so, you become unaware of who you authentically are in your own heart, which affects not only you, but also those around you. When trying to satisfy your longing for accomplishment and admiration apart from Christ, you can become excessively driven and image conscious. By being competitive, self promoting, and constantly comparing yourself to others, you run the risk of burnout and believing you are only as good as your last accomplishment. However, when your heart aligns with the gospel, you believe that you are loved and valued for who you are, not just for your success and productivity. Your confidence, enthusiasm, and determination rubs off and inspires those around you. You become a humble team player and a champion of others. Using your adaptability and drive for productivity and excellence, you allow for incredible achievements for the greater good.
Hmm.
It's such a beautiful message, and I'm so glad that it ends on that because you're right. When you read that first part, you almost feel, kind of like, yes, that's me.
Mhm.
I struggle with those things, but the good news is that I do know that, and I'm so grateful for the gospel message to know that I am that unique image bearer. And there is something special about, being this specific type that adds to the kingdom. And I'm so grateful
Mhm.
for that. Um, I just have to keep reminding myself, right, when you read it, it's like, oh yeah, you need to keep it in the forefront. So that's the first
Yes.
thing. It's easy for me, like it says in here, to get in the driven mindset of just go, 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 and not stop and refocus. So I really appreciated reading that to say, yes, you do get like this, and you need to be reminded that you have to turn towards God and see what your success and productivity is actually for.
Yeah. And actually, and we're the third guide sheet in a five guide sheet series is about the levels of alignment. So
Mm,
healthy, average, and unhealthy. And so are we aligned, misaligned, or out of alignment with the truth of the gospel? And I think our human hearts naturally want to gravitate towards the
mhm.
less healthy attributes and kind of beat ourselves up and shame ourselves or criticize ourselves, judge ourselves. It's just easier to do, but the problem and we kind of falsely think or believe, "Well, if I do that, then I'll just fix myself. I won't do it anymore." Well, that's just not true, right? And the beauty of the gospel is that he has already accomplished all that we need, and so the great thing about looking at the levels of alignment and health is that we're going to ebb and flow between healthy to unhealthy. But the
Mhm.
great news of the gospel is that we're always aligned in the sense that we're always his beloved child. On earth, yeah, we're going to have moments where we're not doing so great and all that stuff. But if we can sit and go, I'm okay because Christ made me okay through his life, death, and resurrection. My identity in Christ in him is secure. So I can look at myself in
Mm,
this less healthy place without shame, without criticism, because he has taken on all of that. And the judgment ends with him, and he is no longer judging me. There's no more condemnation. He has taken that. So then what that allows us to do is it allows us to fully see our not so great qualities and then go, okay, this is what's true. I'm sorry. I own it. Lord, will you help redirect my heart, but also remind me of who I am? And that's what this really did was to lay out clearly, yeah, you do some of these things, but to always say, but that is not the end game. The victory is already ours.
yeah.
And so we get to grab on and experience the beauty of the gospel even while we're still struggling.
Mhm.
And that's what I feel like I'm hearing from you as you're walking into this new career, this new space of the real desire to be authentic. And I think the fact that you desire authenticity shows that God is already paving a path for you to be that and to be genuine and to bring to mind, to call to mind when you're not. Would you agree? Like, if you could look back in your life, were there moments where you didn't really feel the craving of authenticity versus what you're feeling now?
Oh, yes. I mean, you could, those unhealthy younger days when you don't know and
Yeah,
you're surviving, right? And
right.
in a world and you're trying to figure out who you are. I can
Exactly.
numerous stories of like being that essentially that type 3 that was just, checking boxes and taking names and doing
Yeah,
what I needed to do to be successful.
yeah.
I even remember a time with my husband, I think after our firstborn son, I said, "I don't know what's next because I've checked all my boxes." I graduated college, I got married, and I had a kid. So now what's next?
Right.
Which sounds so silly, and I meant it in a jest, but that's how my mind thinks of like what's next to
Mm,
be done. And going into this new ministry is like trying to figure out, okay, I really want to continue to use my gifts, which I know they're good and I enjoy doing them. They give me life. There's value in that. And what is good is God. So what how can I use that well and not
mhm.
let it bring up that fear of, well, you're just doing it because it's either what you're supposed to be doing, right? That self-preservation part, it's the good thing to do, or I'm doing it for my own gain because I get positive feedback. I think, XYZ. So,
Yeah. And it can be both and, right? Like, God does encourage us to encourage one another, right? To affirm one another.
Mm,
And so that's not a bad thing to give affirmations and to receive affirmations. I think if our whole identity is wrapped up into what others say, then that's where we get into a slippery slope. But to receive affirmation can be a really sweet,
mm,
it's like balm for our souls, right?
sure.
And it can be also where we take it in and also just really praise God in that moment of like, wow, thank you for allowing me to have this gift. And I know that you've probably experienced both. But I think one thing that I hear from people that use the Enneagram is, well, if I have any inkling that I'm enjoying hearing, like, especially because we're talking to you as a 3, if I'm hearing anything of value or people admire what I'm doing and I'm loving hearing that, that's bad. And it's like, no, it's not necessarily bad. It just really depends on, are you getting all of your sense of being and,
Mm,
worth in what other people are saying or the accolades or the accomplishments? Or is it that you're getting it from the Lord who is giving you this ability to do all those things? Does that make sense?
yeah.
The difference?
No, that's really helpful because it's true if you all I don't wanna also veer from the other side and think that it's not worthwhile, to be that successful person because like I said, I know it's good, but it's helpful to be reminded that there is good that can come from others, right? Partnering with others and
Yeah.
hearing from that. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so the back part of the guide sheet, and I want to kind of like spend a little bit more time on this back part because I feel like you're in such a sweet spot in life, such a life-changing moment, which on one side is so exhilarating for 3, right? Like, on one side, it's like, "What do I need to do?" Like, "Just give me the list, give me the goals, I'll measure it all out, I've got it." But then there's the part where you've explained, like, "Yeah, but I'm kind of in a world I am not familiar with." I mean, you're familiar with the church, obviously, but
Yeah.
being in ministry as a job, so there's a lot of being unfamiliar, a lot of being vulnerable, maybe exposed, which is a really big fear for the 3, and the possibility of even potential failure, not maybe not catastrophic failure, but even little failures of
Mm.
didn't do something right or you didn't know. And those are really big deals for threes. And so let's kind of bring that to the forefront as we also look at the Enneagram paths. So on the backside of the guide sheet, what we're seeing is the Enneagram paths. So, as we lay out here at YEC, is that the Enneagram is like an internal GPS. And there are four boxes back here. So, if others are just listening and they're not on the YouTube channel watching this, there are four boxes, and each of the boxes have the Enneagram symbol. And each of those symbols has a line from three, either going to nine or six, which is the lines that the three are connected to. So the first box is called the stress path. And this is when, for the three specifically, when you're under stress, you're going to move to the average, to the unhealthy attributes of the type three. Now, you don't become a three. But I mean, not three, to the unhealthy aspects of the type nine, sorry. You don't become a nine, but the type 9 has a great influence on you, especially under stress. And what that looks like, and I'll let you read them. And then once you read them, just pick out what really like stood out to you and where you've seen those pop up in your life.
Yeah, so, when I'm unhealthy, I can move to shutting down, numbing out, becoming disengaged, apathetic, and passive. Remain busy to avoid looking lazy, even even if you're not able to focus. I'll come back to that one. Withdraw and become depressed, losing interest in accomplishing, and resisting help from others. You want to be left alone and not bothered. So I'll come back to the keeping busy to avoid looking lazy. Sometimes, my husband will say, like, "Why are you doing all of this menial work? Like, why did you have to pick that up right now?" And it's because I'm stressed. I don't know
Mhm.
what else to do, so I go and do something. And I had someone tell me that when they get stressed, they go and make a to-do list. Like that just resonates. Yes, if I can't focus on or I can't solve the problem, instead
Mhm.
of probably sitting still and thinking through it, I'll push it aside and I'll start working on something else that I can do because I feel better
Mhm.
because I've checked off something off my list. So that one really resonates when
Yeah.
I'm stressed. But on the opposite side of that, I definitely can see myself resisting help from others. I can get
Mm.
really annoyed and frustrated, especially if I'm stressed out and then I'm interrupted. Big one. I'd rather just kind of work through it and see if I can hunker down, and then shutting down and numbing out. I think if I get overstimulated, for me, I can very easily get overstimulated. And I have 4
Mhm.
young children. I love them, but it's a lot. They're young, and it can get tough. So I stress, and so then I just immediately when they're to bed, I just wanna stop. I don't wanna do anything. I just wanna be, because I was so in like a heightened mode, stress mode for, a couple hours, that I just have to stop.
Mhm. Right. Exactly. As a 9, I totally understand.
Yeah.
You're leaning into my direction.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and okay, so we talked a little bit about, especially at home, but now with this new job, I'm sure, I mean, even though it's only been a month and a half, I'm sure there's been a lot of stressful moments. Have any of these in particular popped up for you? And if not, were there any other, because you know the nine, are there any other nine-ish qualities that have popped up at work that you can see, oh, yeah, I am stressed?
There hasn't been too much yet. I'm on the upside, going over
Kinda
the
like the
positive part.
honeymoon
Yeah,
phase?
I'm still in the honeymoon phase, I think. I think I know what I need to do, and so I disengage potentially.
Yeah.
I'll just kinda, like, step away and be like, "I really wanna get this done," "This is frustrating." I have a task to do, so it's
Mhm.
interrupting. But actually, what I'm learning really fast is that ministry is constantly interrupted, and I really
Oh,
gotta get over that.
right.
Um,
Mhm.
my husband is the lead pastor of this church, and I feel for him because the amount of people who need him, and he wants to be there for him, and he just goes with it, and it's amazing. He definitely leans into that 9. nine
Right.
wing where he just kind of, "Okay, yeah, what how can I help you?" I'm, like, stressed
Yeah,
out over here. I'm like, "We have to get something done."
right.
So that's probably the biggest is just learning
Yeah,
how
ministry,
ministry
there's
works.
not because being a former pastor's wife, my husband is working for us now, and I used to be the church secretary many, many moons ago. Yeah, there's no you can set as many goals and agendas and schedules, but it all just kind of flies out the window at any moment.
It
So,
does.
yeah, it is very much a pivot, flexible, or you have to be very flexible and patient, in that sphere for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. So we'll come back to the 9 later as we talk about it in a healthy way. But the next box is called the blind spot box, or sorry, blind spot path. And this is when you will move to the average, the unhealthy parts of 6. Now, you're only going to really do this around your family because most of the time, the path that we go to that is our blind spot path, the things that that type does, and for you, it's type 6. When you see a type 6 do these things just kind of out and about in everyday life, it can really annoy you. And it's almost to the point where it's like, oh, I would never do that. But then we do it at home and we don't even realize it. And that's why it's called our blind spot path. So, with that being said, tell us or go ahead and read what it's like for a 3 at home when they're not at their best place yet.
Yeah, we can, express anxieties and complaints, doubts, anger, and frustrations that I don't typically reveal to others. I can react strongly when blamed or accused of something, and can become suspicious of others and unsure of whom, I can trust. So thinking of being strongly blamed, I've my husband, he's the best. He knows he really clear on right and wrong. And
Yeah,
again,
right, right.
I'm more of the, "Yeah, it's fine."
Yeah.
So when he questions something, that I've done and is like, "Was that really the right thing to do?" I immediately get offended, like, "What? How? No, I did it. It was fine. There's nothing wrong." So I'll brush it off, I'll ignore it, all of that, or say like, "No, it wasn't me," or "It didn't go the way that you think it went." So,
Right.
I can definitely see that as a blind spot. And then anxieties, I don't necessarily I wonder how it plays out, I guess, if you were constantly in that phase with family, and this is a blind spot, so I don't necessarily see it in myself,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear what my loved ones would say. But I do know I get anxious, and I
Mm.
only show like, that anxiousness or share that fear if there's something really with my loved ones.
Yeah.
I would rather present myself like, "Everything's fine. There's nothing to worry about." But at home, I'm gonna be like, this is not right, and I'm so frustrated, and I don't know what to do, and they didn't do that right." And, then they'll come back and say like, "Well, why didn't you say that in the moment? Why didn't you just tell them that?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I just felt uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say because I didn't want to say the wrong thing,
Mhm.
or hurt anybody's feelings, things like that." So I can see that.
Yeah, yeah, and, because the 3s typically and of course not this isn't an always thing, but typically they're not gonna be at work complaining or pushing or prodding or testing the waters with their employers, seeing where loyalties land, like a 6 might. But
Mm,
then at home, some of those frustrations and anxieties that they wouldn't tell everyone else really can kind of start to surface because their family feels like a much safer place
yeah,
to dispense all of that pent up energy and anxieties and worry. And so it feels like a safer place to do that. Now, and again, we have that's where this is so closely related to the growth path. So if we look at the next box, it's the growth path, and it's the exact same path. It's 3 going to 6, but this is when you're at a much healthier place and you take on the healthy aspects of the type 6. Now, that's hard. All growth is hard. And so, though these are the things that we hope will transpire and come out, it's much easier to do the less healthy things, which is the blind spot path. So, why don't you go ahead and read what it looks like when you're moving in this growth path, when you're actually in a much healthier place, moving and bringing on some of those healthy characteristics of six.
So I'm finding rest and knowing that Christ's accomplishments are now mine. I can become less competitive and more loyal, authentic, vulnerable, and cooperative. And I can shift to a team player mindset, asking for help and using my talents to help and promote others.
Hmm.
The last one I want with, all that I am to be that team player mindset and promote others. Like, if to me, that is authenticity, is getting away from myself
Yes.
and helping others, just lifting them up and bringing them to a space where they feel valuable and loved as well. So, yeah, would love that
Yeah.
more
And
and
I
more in
think,
my life.
just as much in the Enneagram, I'll talk to clients about creating rumble strips.
Mhm.
So like those loud things on the side of the highway when you're starting to veer off course, and hopefully
Mm,
you'll correct course when you hear them. Um, but we want to create rumble strips in our own life. So the stress path and the blind spot path, we want to know when these less healthy attributes pop up. Again, like I said earlier, not out of shame and condemnation or fear, because Christ is taking care of it, but as a warning sign, like, oh, okay, if I keep going, I'm going to land in that common pitfall again. So
mm,
now is my opportunity to come back and ask the Lord to help me get back on my healthiest path. And so I think but just the same is that not just with rumble strips as a warning, but these awarenesses of, oh, when I am champion others, when I'm lifting others up, when I'm seeing their success, not my own, but their success, I'm going to know that I'm in a good, sweet, authentic space.
mm.
And that is beautiful, because that's when it's not about like cheering or patting yourself on the back. It's like going, thank you, God, for allowing me to be able to use my gifts, but in a way that lifts others up, that the focus isn't on me, but I feel fulfilled because I feel you working in and through me. We're accomplishing the greater good for your kingdom, but I get to do it by lifting others up, and helping others. Does that make sense? Kind of that rumble strip idea, but kind of flipped in the positive way?
Yeah, it does, and it's a great reminder that it's often, like, the work of the Spirit, like you have o on this guide sheet, it says, "When the Holy Spirit enables you growth," is okay, there's something in me that's moving towards, something that's healthy, and it adds value without me actually having, like, saying that it's mine to do, 'cause
Yeah.
it's not mine to do,
Yeah.
which is
You get to
nice.
participate. Yeah.
Yeah, I get to participate and enjoy the fruits, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the growth path. So this is again when the three is healthy, and that you're bringing in the healthy aspects of six. Again, hard to do, but then if we continue to grow in that direction, we can actually take on some of the healthiest aspects of what was your stress path, which is going to nine. So you can take on some of the healthiest parts of nine. So you have the healthy three, six, and nine kind of converging together,
Mhm.
and that's why we call it the converging path. And so I'll let you read that, and then tell me, like, oh, I think the bottom of it was cut off, but we'll see what we can figure out.
Yeah.
So read it to the best of your ability, and I'll
Yeah.
try to fill in the blanks.
Okay, so, I can learn how to relax, rest, and just be instead of constantly doing, achieving, and performing. Or excel out of joy rather than insecurity, desperation, or fear. Seek to collaborate and value the viewpoints and contributions of others, and search for ways to support others and their success. I'm sure instead of
It
keeping it to myself, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Kinda like what we were
Um
just saying. So, yeah, how does this land on you, and where have you seen this pop up for you before?
Yeah, the just being piece of it really stands out. I think that I am the most healthy when I actually just slow down. I
Mm,
am in that future mindset. I am constantly thinking of things to be done. I have all of that. And it's very rare that I either make time or am forced to have time just to be.
yeah.
And I'm very grateful that in between this transition, I had we had made as a family a choice that I was going to leave my job without another job. And I knew that I was going to have space to just be. And I remember, I think it was day 2, I thought, oh gosh, now I'm bored. Like I was working in a really high stress environment, but it wasn't healthy. And I knew it. So I left. But now I'm not busy, so what do? I just need to be. So I took that time to just be and intentionally forced myself to just sit in that moment. And I think that's where a lot of that desire for, okay, I want to keep this going. I want to be motivated by just being and being that authentic self, and how do I
Mhm.
move that into whatever positions next? And then that opportunity came up to go into ministry, and I thought, yeah, like, that's it. That's what I want. I
Yeah.
want to be in that converging space where I'm in a space where I'm comfortable and relaxed, rather than thinking of what needs to be done.
Yeah, so it really sounds like you set yourself up for success by
For
by, in a sense, forcing yourself to rest and be,
Mhm,
and allowing you to have the space to take a big deep breath, kind of reorient your mind so that when opportunities came, you were much more easy to go, "Oh, that space over there, I can be more
mhm,
authentic," than trying to get back in another space that would just pull more out of me of the drive for success or image or other things. And not that, I mean, and there's not a right or wrong for any specific job, not all people have to go into ministry to experience that, but for you, your
yeah,
calling, what God had put on your heart was this, but you probably wouldn't have been able to see or sense it as clearly had you not been in a place of more rest, more space to breathe and kind of allow the Lord to kind of speak more in tune with your heart. Would that be
right.
true?
Yes, absolutely, and that what motivates, like, I wanna keep it, and so I don't wanna get stuck in feeling like, what if I go back to that old mindset? Which, you're
Yeah.
helping me to see, like, I don't it's not that they were bad. They can be beneficial if I, keep that same mindset or use that rumble strip, or whatever it is that helps me just remember that this is the goal. Probably if you get to, like, IG3 and use that levels of alignment, like, "Hey, you're
Yeah.
here. Try to stay
Yeah.
there."
And, when you start to feel the, because you're gonna feel this. You're a type 3, you're always gonna be a type 3. You're gonna feel the pull for, accolades and success and accomplishments and efficiencies, and all of that can be really good, but when you start to see yourself craving it or needing it or doing it in a way that is not lifting others up before you or at least alongside you, then that's your rumble strip. And but the key is when you see it, and this is the hardest part for all of us,
Yeah,
is to not shame and not condemn and not judge yourself.
right.
That's when we give it back to the Lord and go, "Oh, yep, here I am again, Lord." But you knew. You weren't surprised. You
Yeah.
still love me. Your grace is still sufficient for all the things
Mm.
that, I am doing, will be doing in the future, but you've covered it all. And so I bring it before you and I get to rest at your feet. And that's where again, for you as the 3, the healthy 6 is gonna come in because you're gonna be loyal and champion others while the 9 kicks in and allows you to just rest at Jesus's feet while also champion others because that's what 9s do as well. So I think the biggest, rumble strip is this just for my own self and my own sake? Or am I really focused on promoting others, it being a team, a collaboration? I'm shifting the focus onto others versus just me, and then ultimately to Christ. But does that make sense in how you can kind of navigate the waters?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It really helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the last part on the guide sheet is the internal message. And these, we have lots of false messages in our mind. They're like record players and they're like either softly playing in the background or blaring, could be anywhere in between, depending on where we're at. But these are false messages. Now they
Mhm.
feel really real. And so for you, yours is if I do something valuable or admirable, then I'm okay.
Mm.
Does that, for majority of your life, does that feel like a true statement?
Yeah, yeah, for quite a while, I knew what I needed to do to be successful, and so I just needed to make sure I got them done, and then I'd be okay, and like I said, it was, this joke, but probably because of that internal message of, "Okay, now what? Am I gonna be okay? Because I don't know I don't know what's next." Which
Right.
is where that fear comes in of like, "Okay, now what?" And then if I'm not achieving something or I'm not being successful or making something, more efficient, whatever, am I gonna be shamed? Am I gonna turn that way? Which is not true, and I know it's not true. But in my head, there's always that trigger of like, "Well, was that enough? Did you do enough?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are the things that you get to capture. Those are the rumble strips. Because
Mhm.
for me, anytime I have the thought, "Nobody cares what I
Mm.
do, my voice doesn't matter," and it can be very soft in the background, but then there's times where it gets really loud and it gets very convincing. But anytime I hear that, that's when I go, "Oh, wait, huh, okay, there it is again." And I really wanna believe it because it feels so real and so
Mhm.
true. But it's not, and I need to bring back in the truth into my mind that Christ created me in a way that does matter, and my voice does matter, and that doesn't mean it's not gonna matter to the whole world all the time, but showing up matters. Now, so I have to remind myself of that, but that's not the thing that you have to remind yourself about. And so when the false messages of the 3 come in and they start whispering in your ear, for a while, it's not gonna feel like any big deal, but then it gets to a place where it's a slippery slope.
Mhm.
So what I love is that you gave yourself a season of really going into especially the 9 healthy space, and you were just being,
Mhm.
because you can now compare this message to what you actually felt when you were just being, and you will more quickly be able to point out for yourself what's false and wrong because you can compare it to that really sweet moment of a 3 not being a human doing, but being a human being. Does that feel
Mhm.
accurate?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's being not being defined by what I do, right? And does it's not even what I do, is it worthwhile to others? What is that message that comes from the world around me versus, what I know in my heart to be true is that I am just a unique image bearer, beloved child of God, and that's all, that's enough.
Yeah.
And to be able to get through that to myself and then share that with others, I mean, it's invaluable and something
Yeah.
I have to hold on to.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, you're only, like you said, a month and a half-ish
Yeah.
in to the job, but just by going through the core motivations and, the Enneagram paths and just this kind of one of the core lies, how do you feel like this will shift for yourself in going back into your job, tomorrow or next week? What can you bring forth that's gonna allow you to really kinda soar and enjoy just moving forward and just being, really?
I think the mindset of knowing that what I do is of value, but it it's not something to be shamed or to be pushed aside. It's actually something that can add value to the ministry, because that could be the work of the Spirit. It could be a growth area for
Mm.
myself. It could be recognizing that I do have something to add to this, and it's okay to be new. I think that's hard.
Yeah,
It's okay to be new at something, and to
yeah,
and to have some anxiety with it. To recognize it, I think is going to be key, especially going forward. Recognize, okay, I'm feeling incompetent, or I'm not
mhm,
feeling that I'm contributing to this because I just don't know what to do here. But I think that's okay. We all have to start somewhere. But
yep,
I think keeping that front and center of my mind is like, it's okay. Like
mm,
you still add value for what you and who you are today, and you can grow in that, and that's okay. It's okay where you are today, and
ah,
it's okay to be here today.
I love that, I
Yeah.
love that. Well, thank you so much, Felicia, for being here, being authentic, allowing us to really hear your heart, where you're at, but then also where God is taking you. I mean, it's really going to be exciting to see the things that God's going to unfold for you personally, but then also the ripple effects, through church and even your family. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Beth. I really appreciate this.
Wow, I am so thankful that Felicia was able to come today to show up, be really authentic. So we got to hear from a type 3 in a real coaching session. And I know that you guys were able to witness the moments that she had where she had these aha experiences, and you can hear where the lasting growth is going to take place. Now, if you would like to experience the same with your own personal certified Enneagram coach, then you can grab your coach, and it could be even Felicia, at myenneagramcoach.com and have your aha moments as well. But for those of you who are like, that sounds like a lot of fun, I would like to be an Enneagram coach, then check out our free mini course to see what being an Enneagram coach is all about. You can get your free mini course at yourenneagramcoach.com/mini course. Well, thanks for spending time with me this week, but don't miss next week because next week I'm coaching a type 2. Yes, you're not going to want to miss out on that. But as always, remember that the Enneagram reveals your need for Jesus, not your need to work harder. It's the gospel that transforms us. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.